Well, hey, folks, it's your old pal, King Waspinator. This Sunday, I got into a car accident with my wife. We were heading to work and heading down the lane, and the car was coming on the oncoming traffic lane, and right at the last second, turned to make a left-hand turn, and without giving us sufficient time to possibly be able to slow down. So, thankfully, my wife is pretty much unscathed by the accident. I myself, though, have 6 broken ribs, and my sternum right here in the center of my chest is cracked. And a few issues with back pain, but for the most part, most of the damage seems to have been contained to my chest. I got some pretty nice bruises that you can't really see from this camera angle. But anyway, I'm going to be off work for anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. So in a weird, screwed up way, this is like the first real vacation I've had in 5 years now. And I don't know, stuck at home in the evening when I'm usually elsewhere, and my wife's not here, so I guess it's time to live stream. So, yay, everybody. You get to hang out with the Waspinator as he slowly nurses himself back to health. I've made the joke that, hey, I finally got my own superhero emblem on my chest. And, maybe I can call myself the Slash or something. But anyway, I guess just for the sake of having some sort of topic to talk about, unless someone feels like hopping in the chat and asking a question or wanting to bring something up. A couple weeks ago, I picked up a copy of a new role-playing game called Star Trek Adventures. Now, this is not the first incarnation of a Star Trek-based role-playing game, but it has an all-new rule system. It's by Modiphius Press, Modiphius Entertainment, which apparently is some sort of remnant of the old White Wolf game studio from the 90s. I'm not entirely sure what the chain of inheritance there is between one and the other. I do know that they're currently publishing Vampire the Masquerade, though. So either case, decided to check it out. I picked up the main book and a couple of source books. And I haven't had enough time to fully delve into the rule system for this. There's a few things on the rule system for this game that strikes me as a little wonky, and I'm going to have to work through them somehow to play test them just to kind of get my head around the dynamics of their 2 die 20 system. On the surface, it seems simple. All you need is a couple die 6 and a couple die 20s. Those are, in most D20 type games, those are the dice you end up using the most. So, it seems okay, but there's some stuff I was reading that they overcomplicate it a little bit, and I guess that's just the world we live in when you're trying not to be too much like Dungeons and Dragons. But the presentation of these books is amazing. They're incredibly well researched. The artwork is, not perfect. There are, your filler picks here and there, but for the most part, the artwork is really excellent. Nice interior design. The inner covers on most of the books will give you a full map of the Federation. The character creation seems interesting. Some of the things they've done seem to encourage role playing in an interesting way, and that the attributes for the characters, instead of being entirely pegged on your physical and mental capabilities, instead of using strength, constitution, dexterity, intelligence, and all that, their attributes are stuff like how brave is your character and how resourceful they are, and they boil all your physical attributes down to just one attribute, their fitness rating. And there's aspects to that seem intriguing to me. As I say, I've only had these books for a little over a week now, so I've not had enough time to get that level in depth. At some point, how I normally start learning the rule system for a new role-playing game is I'll start off by making a bunch of characters. Since the player characters are the primary interface with the rule system, if you want to learn the rule system, I generally find it's a good entry point is to understand how the characters are interacting with that rule system. And so that also helps you kind of focus down onto what part of the rules you need to learn and have locked into your head before running the game first, and what other kind of rules are more your errata and, the kind of stuff that you only have to reference every once in a while, but aren't necessarily essential for every game session. But the thing I am interested in doing with this game, at some point I might actually consider maybe doing some sort of online Zoom-based campaign with any interested parties who might want to join in, seeing that we're in this endless age of COVID. And so having random strangers coming over to your house to play role-playing games just isn't as much of a thing nowadays as it used to be. But it does something that I've been like having in my head for a while, in regards to the modern rift in Star Trek fandom regarding the CBS All Access shows like Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard and the Lower Decks, and the other projects coming down the pipeline like Strange New Worlds and Section 31, all of which are lackluster, mediocre, and jarringly feel out of step with the tone and historical setup that the other Star Trek series provide. This game, on the other hand, like I said, very well researched. It's set, the primary base year is roughly, I want to say, like season 2 of Deep Space Nine, like just slightly prior to the beginning of the Klingon Cardassian War, which was, a front as the Dominion was coming into the Alpha Quadrant. But it has guidelines for if you want to set it during the original series timeline or even back during the Scott Bakula Enterprise setting. You can do that easily. I also, just from reading through it, it'd be real easy to take the Next Generation era of show timeline forward a little bit. One of the two ideas I kind of have percolating in my head would take advantage of that kind of play, campaign style. The other source books I got, though, let's talk about some of the other things, because the thing that's attractive as a person running a game about whether or not I want to get into playing said game is like, what kind of accoutrements come with it. Are you going to be able to, get a nice Game Master screen? I haven't ordered it yet, but apparently Star Trek Adventures does have all that kind of stuff, and they have miniatures and some rules for miniatures. But so far I've mainly focused on just getting some of the core source books. I picked up the Command Division, which gives expanded rules for characters who wear the red stripes on the top of their uniforms, the characters who command starships and pilot shuttlecraft and all that. And I also picked up the Sciences Division book. Similarly, this covers your characters who are involved in Starfleet science and also medical and psychology. I have not picked up the Operations Division book, but I eventually, hopefully, will get around to it. But, it's Christmas time. I have only so much money I can waste on myself while also wasting a bunch of money on other people. But the other ones that I picked up, I got two of the setting expansion books. I picked up their copy of Alpha Quadrant, which, from my brief read-through of it so far, has an awful lot of information in it about Deep Space Nine and the Dominion War, which I would have expected to be more out of the Gamma Quadrant source book. So when I do eventually get around to the Gamma Quadrant source book, I'll be curious as to exactly what's filling the pages over there. And I also picked up Delta Quadrant. Just the fact that it has rules in here so that you can play a liberated Borg, to me, that was worth the purchase price alone. Assuming I ever actually get to use these books and play, and they don't just sit on a shelf. And if they do, that's fine. Like I said, these are very excellent books. The interior page layout is all done, so it looks like the LCARS screens from TNG era computer systems. Really nice paintings. The cover paintings are good. I noticed that at least on the division source books for Command and Science, and I assume Operations, like if you link the cover paintings together, it's all kind of showing a much larger scene of a crashed starship on the surface of an alien world. So hopefully after I get the Operations source book, I'll be able to get a peek at what the entire piece is supposed to look like. But overall, just tentative early read-throughs of this game. It has potential. And that's the best I can give to it so far. Like I said, I need to do some delving into the rules. And I do have some suspicion that the rules might need to be modified a little bit. I don't know. These are the same people. If this company does actually honestly trace itself to White Wolf Publishing, I mean, these are the people who brought us the Storyteller system, which at first seems jarringly, radically different from what people at the time might have been used to from Palladium Games or TSR or Artel Saurian and the other, big publishers at the time. But it's interesting. And most importantly, it would allow us Star Trek fans who are dissatisfied with the CBS shows to be able to put our money with where our mouth is, so to say, and put out our own Star Trek adventures, so we can kind of showcase what kind of Star Trek series we would create or what kind of episodes we would come up with in a fashion that would allow you to put your little campaign video on YouTube and not have to worry about being copyright struck by CBS or Paramount, because you're not showing clips from one of their shows. You're not trying to create your own amateur series. You're just posting videos of your adventures from a licensed role-playing game. So, as I say, at some point in time, I might consider recruiting some fellow YouTube Star Trek fans who might want to delve into exploring this game setting. Either I'll use my old idea for a further down the timeline Star Trek show that would be a small fleet using Borg conduits to try to explore another galaxy. So it kind of, on the surface, some of the basic premise of Voyager, except they've purposely put themselves far isolated from the Federation and have also prepared for that situation by taking the appropriate amount of supplies and personnel instead of it just being kind of a random accident. But I had that idea a long time ago, and Stargate Atlantis came out, and I kind of feel like it kind of sucked the thunder out of the whole, like, oh, we're going to go explore a new galaxy as our way of expanding things. So another thought I had, especially since I got the Delta Quadrant book, would maybe do something like a Second Federation type campaign set in the wake of the Voyager mission and the Delta Quadrant, where maybe like some of the liberated Borg and some of the other races that the Voyager had positive interactions with after Voyager is gone. What if they themselves start trying to cobble together their own little federation, even if they might not necessarily fully understand what the real Federation was, or if liberated Borg are central to whatever this Second Federation is, maybe through Borg technology and their memories of Federation technology and society, they're able to reconstruct mock-up facsimiles of classic Federation starships, even though on the inside they're running on totally alien technology, but on the outside it might look like a classic Constellation class starship or something. I don't know. It's nothing I'm going to be doing anytime soon, so there's time to think about it. But it does present ideas, and I think, unlike the earlier versions of the Star Trek role-playing game that I remember looking around at many a year ago, this seems to be more playable and a bit more open-ended. But yeah, certainly worth checking out just for the Star Trekkiness of it. I mean, these are like really just excellently put together books. And like I said, I mean, like very, very fleshed out in terms of Star Trek history that's presented, timeline of events, like tons of alien races, all sorts of neat little bits of information that might not always be strikingly obvious in episodes. I recommend them. So anyway, I guess that bought me 14 minutes of time talking about that. A lovely live stream experience with your broken ass Krampus Waspinator. Now, is there anything else going on that I could talk about to kill a little time? Wonder Woman 84 is about to come out in a couple days, and so is Disney's Pixar's Soul. Of those two, I'm probably more interested in seeing the Pixar flick. Wonder Woman, admittedly, was the only DCEU movie that I liked, but that's it's a low bar, let's say. So I kind of, I don't know, past Justice League, I just kind of felt given up on the entire DC project. Like I know they have announcements for all sorts of things coming down the pipeline, and it's not even that like I won't believe it till I see it. It's just I've generally just lost interest in DC properties, which is sad. But in some ways, DC's iconic characters compared to Marvel's iconic characters, they are much more the basic bitch characters. I mean, Superman is a little kid's type of comic book hero. Batman is really problematic, actually, all these years later. And I don't mean that in like a social justice-y kind of way. I mean, it's the guy's nuts. And it's actually really, it's not heroic that someone can't like let go of their trauma for their entire life. Like it and then constantly dragging other children into it in the forms of all the Robins and Barbara Gordon. And just there's like messed up, dark, twisted stuff about Batman. And really that's like all DC has going for it. Like Aquaman was kind of like a fluke that it was a hit. It was like, a combination of Christmas visual spectacle and women loving Jason Momoa and a certain amount of guys loving Jason Momoa. Timed a bit different. That movie might not have gone anywhere. And it sucks. I mean, it looks great, but the movie itself sucks. All these movies suck. So, yeah, definitely Disney Plus is much more higher up on my list than HBO Max when it comes to things they got coming out. I am curious to see if Disney might whip out some sort of surprise for Christmas. I'm not expecting anything, though. It'd be nice. It's like, hey, check it out, guys. Black Widow. It's good that Disney has announced they have all these Star Wars shows and Marvel shows coming down the pipeline, because I'm really starting to waver on whether or not it's worth dropping $75 so that for a whole year I can have access to a website that I only watch for like a month and a half in the fall for my 8 episodes of The Mandalorian. When Disney Plus first launched, we were told that we were going to be getting the Falcon and Winter Soldier series like back this last August. Never came out. And WandaVision, I believe, should have already been coming out or would be coming out real soon by the original timetable. Now, how much of Falcon and Winter Soldier being delayed has to do with, the COVID crisis erupting and disrupting their film schedule? I'm sure that might have had some factor into it, but I think the real culprit here, and why I would like it if for some Christmas miracle Disney would just go ahead and stick Black Widow on Disney Plus, is because Black Widow is what's jamming up the entirety of the next phase of Marvel media being released, because they want to have everything staggered in a certain order so that if you'll be able to understand references to things in later products and series. There's in all likelihood things going on in the Falcon and Winter Soldier show that will directly reference things that are learned in the viewing of Black Widow. And since they can't put Black Widow out in theaters because they don't want to just throw the money and investment they put into making that movie away, and by releasing it into an environment where it's impossible for it to not even make its money back, let alone cut any sort of profit. But it's kinking up the entire line. Until Black Widow is released, it seems to be the thing that's stalling our ability to enjoy all these other Marvel shows. But as I say, I mean, like, if you're not a person who likes like classic Disney cartoons and doesn't have children, and you're only really subscribed to Disney Plus so you can watch Star Wars shows and have access to the Marvel catalog, making us go a whole year and then asking for another $75 so we can watch another 8 episodes of Mandalorian and still nothing else. I mean, except little tidbits of stuff that's kind of cute, like the Lego Holiday Special. It actually wasn't all that half bad, but I could have lived without it. It certainly wasn't like anything I was hot for, and I don't really feel like it makes up for like this vast gulf of months upon months of last year where I almost entirely forgot that, oh yeah, Disney Plus is even an option. I did find randomly one time, just when I was on I gotta get some use out of this thing that I'm paying for, that I decided just on a lark to try watching the new live action Aladdin. And to my entire shock and surprise, I actually kind of enjoyed it more than the original animated version. So I guess like on another tip there, if you're looking yourself for some way to justify your expense to keeping Disney Plus around now that Mandalorian season 2 is over and we have this unknown gulf of time to get through where there's really nothing fresh to wash on there, if you're like an older sci-fi nerd, well, check out the new Aladdin. It was like surprisingly good. I was no way expecting to come away from that viewing experience with the opinion I have on that movie. So perhaps my perception of its quality could be that my bar was really low, but I didn't think I'd like last 10 minutes into it without turning it off. You know, I've been that way with all the other live action reboots of Disney movies that I've tried to watch. I'd watch a few minutes of it and like be like, yeah, screw this. The original Beauty and the Beast was better, or this was unnecessary. It's identical, but ooh, now it's photorealistic lions. In other words, Disney. Seriously, guy. It's all well and good that you're trying to keep Hollywood afloat, and that you want to, like, you know, keep all of our childhood franchises all bottled up under one safe roof, so you can quality control everything, and so you don't get substandard versions of these products out there. Well, if you want us to keep giving you money, we need these products. You can't just keep dangling them in front of us like carrots that we never get to eat. At some point, we actually have to get a little taste of our reward for the investment we're making and keeping your streaming site relevant. Because, you know, y'all could be HBO Max very easily. But thankfully, neither of them are CBS All Access, which I'm pretty much close to just telling them to fuck off. I got about halfway through this newest season of Discovery and then just completely lost interest in continuing on with it. And now I'm so many episodes behind. That's the idea of trying to sit through 5 or 6 of those episodes in a row, just trying to binge it out to finish it off. I just can't do it anymore. They're not Star Trek. They're dressed up with Star Trek logos, but there's something about the complete package that they've put together just doesn't gel and create a Star Trek experience. It's something that's masquerading as Star Trek, but it's really a totally different sci-fi show. And if that sci-fi show didn't have the Star Trek brand, it never would have made it past season 1. Never would have had a cartoon spinoff, never would have had a Patrick Stewart Picard spinoff. Star Trek Discovery, if it had just been called, you know, like Space Trek Discovery, and was just a completely just totally like non-related, maybe kind of slight homage, but you know, not any official Star Trek product, people wouldn't have stuck through this. Not at all. The only reason why people are sticking through it is that they're either hate watching it or they're caught up in the cultural war. So they feel that they have to support it because all the right people don't like it, which I know it's like one of my more weirder conspiracy theory beliefs I have about Hollywood. But I swear the social justice marketing is so consistent that I can't help but think that this is all like a purposeful plan. You know, you want a new audience. Like, you know, what is marketing and companies, regardless of what you're selling, you know, you can be selling toys or candy bars, clothes, television, whatever it is. They're always chasing the youth demographic. And the question a lot of people ask is, why are they bothering with that? The youth doesn't have money. It's older people, you know, like me and older, who actually have the time and extra money to actually sit and enjoy this stuff and want to spend the money on the merchandise and all that kind of crap. So why are they trying to alienate their original core older audiences? Well, there's a thing in marketing where, you know, it's a commonly held belief that people's brand loyalty gets kind of locked in past a certain age. Like once you're out past your 20s, like you've decided, like, you know, I prefer Tide over Gain detergent. And so there's no point in trying to show me ads for Gain detergent because I'm just going to buy Tide. So in order for them to be able to reach fresh advertising markets, to put ads in front of people who aren't already biased against those ads, they need a younger audience in front of it. Combine in with the fact that there is this very much a controlled rebellion sort of thing going on with our culture, where every new batch of teenagers gets like recast in their whole, like, this is what teenage rebellion means in this decade. And screw the old people. Well, by taking properties like Star Trek and Star Wars and alienating the original fans, they can then say to the younger fans, hey, you should come like this. Because all those old uncool bastards who've been oppressing people and have been supporting the patriarchy or whatever, buzzword that you want to get yourself behind, well, they don't like this show. So it means you got to like it, because that way, if you're supporting Star Trek Discovery, you're sticking your finger in the face of all these terrible alt-right incels who watch Star Trek all these years. And it's fake. That doesn't really accurately describe Star Trek fans, or at least that you didn't used to. But because of like the polarized nature of everything, it's kind of like causing the two parties to kind of chase each other around into positions that are kind of a little unnatural. Like, there really shouldn't be that much bitching, if ever bitching, about people talking about diversity in Star Trek. And yet there is. And I don't entirely disagree with the bitching about it, because it's not the diversity of the casting or the characters. It's the attitude behind it. It's the fact that it's the self-congratulatory, like, oh, look at us and how good we are. We're going to give ourselves an award for all these poor black women that we've put into all of our television series. Oh, yes. And look, now we have a young trans actor, true auteur, and just to show how great we are as people and how perfect we are and forward-thinking and definitely much, much better examples of humanity than that poor, stupid, disgusting audience that we used to have that had carried this franchise 30, 40 years until we got our grubby little hands on it. So you got that. Also, by creating everything into like a political controversy, you can go to your stockholders and shareholders and say, hey, guys, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on the internet saying that this thing that you gave us all this money to make is bad, but don't listen to them. They're just a bunch of Nazis. Trust our opinion. It's a good thing they don't like this show, so don't worry about all that bad publicity. We'll turn it around. It kind of allows them to like shirk responsibility for having made something bad. It allows them to deflect whatever repercussions they might otherwise face for having made a bad, lackluster failure of a series. It's not their fault. It's the misogynist fans. It's the fans of our products that are at fault. Really, I'd like to think, like, I've asked this question to many people over the years, but is there any industry outside of the entertainment industry that is so antagonistic with its own customer base as our entertainment industry has been for the last 5 to 10 years now? I mean, it's a serious question. I mean, does Levi Jeans, ever go off about, oh, kids need to buy our pants because, older people who used to buy Levi's are misogynists and they don't like our new female spokesmodel, or, it doesn't seem to apply to other kinds of businesses. It's just the same thing that's just uniquely entertainment. Not specifically unique to television or to movies, but it's just kind of there across the entertainment sphere, across all different kinds of art and music and such. You see little hints of this in varying degrees. But it's the most exaggerated form in the Hollywood studio system. And why are we doing this to ourselves? Why keep putting up with it? I should come back to, this is why I picked up these books. I'm sick of them ruining Star Trek. I'm sick of trying to bang my head against the wall, trying to justify what they're doing, and or this self. It's a really inefficient use of your time to be spending hours of your week watching shows that you hate and then writing up long essays dissecting everything that's wrong with it and then editing long videos with all the clips from that show that you hate. It just, I just, in general, if I don't like something, I just don't bring it up and don't talk about it. And I'm certainly not going to devote an entire YouTube career based around talking shit about a property that I once liked that I don't like anymore. Geeks and gamers. It just seems like a mental sickness when instead, you could do creative things with other people, not just by yourself, but that could still give you the Star Trek experience that you want, tailored to your own tastes and just as in canon as you wish it to be. So once again, check out Star Trek Adventures. I was able to pick them all up on Amazon. So get on your computer. You're already on your computer. Order yourself Star Trek Adventures right now. I'm not paid for them or buy anything. I just want to see people find a better way to actualize their time so that we're like doing something at least that's mentally productive and that we're not just constantly fretting and bitching. I mean, that's kind of like, it's the big problem with the whole fandomness phenomenon and the rift within sci-fi nerddom right now is that it's not productive. I mean, there's always been kind of a bitchy, nitpicky aspect to nerds. Always has been. But it's just gone just to ridiculous levels. And I'm tired of it. And yet I can't seem to escape it. You have, you're stuck with either channels that hate everything and their entire audience is just kind of naturally geared to automatically assume the worst of any product that bears the logo of the now tarnished brand. Like how people react, like any news they hear about Star Wars is just automatically like, well, Kathleen Kennedy's gonna fuck this up. It's very akin to how, like, this morning on Facebook, there's all these people like jumping through all these mental hoops to try to explain how Trump wanting to give everyone $2,000 instead of $600 was somehow worse than the initial proposal of giving everyone $600, that Trump's only offering people more money for nefarious purposes. Like, I see that, like, with in all sorts of aspects with all sorts of things. Like, if Kathleen Kennedy wanted to come over to your house and give you ice cream and a blowjob, you're going to come up with all sorts of, like, reasons why this is canon breaking and is just defying the legacy of George Lucas and is ruining your night without even giving her a chance to go down on you first and see what kind of head game she has. No, I'm just going to automatically leap to the conclusion that it's bad. This is not a thing that either side of our little political rift has over the other. It'd be nice to just have more middle of the road, realistic type of entertainment channels to watch, where it's either just not constant negativity or constant ass kissy, plasticized gummy goodness, like what Screen Junkies has slowly evolved into over the last couple of years since Andy Signor departed and all that. And what Collider video is like. Like both ends of this line of demarcation suck. Isn't it possible to, like, and it makes it impossible to actually have, like, good critical discussions with anybody. The second you're on Facebook and if you say something negative about the Rise of Skywalker, you're automatically pegged by some people to be in this whole category of person. And maybe you just thought it was a poorly written clusterfuck of a movie. So much of this, in particular to Star Trek and both Star Wars, a common thread to both of these things is the presence of J.J. Abrams and his mystery box. It's a carnival trick, openly telling everyone that he's doing it. And yet here all these years later, both fandoms are still at each other's throats arguing about the contents of that invisible, empty box. And why are we doing that? How is that fun at all? How is, like, seriously, like, how's Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers managed to, like, build a career for, like, 2-3 years now of putting out daily videos complaining about how bad Star Wars is? Like, who are the people that watch that every day? Like, what kind of weird affirmation are you needing out of life? Where, like, on one hand, you have the shill idiots who think everything they hear, like, oh, I'm just so excited to see this. I mean, it's just as dumb as just like, oh, this is going to be terrible and they're going to just ruin my childhood and everything sucks. And, Krampus isn't happy with you people. Well, anyway, Guess that's all I really had to talk about off the top of my head. This is a bit of a test stream. Wear your seatbelts, guys. This is a seatbelt scar, and I'm glad I have it because the alternative, well, I wouldn't be here streaming possibly, and my wife would be having a really shitty Christmas. So, buckle up, folks. Stay safe, and go fuck yourselves.